This phase to me, like I said, is the most important. And I do have a strong feeling that most personal trainers would agree, especially if you've been training clients for many years. It was mentioned previously that phases are typically 6 weeks in duration, but for some, phase one is a stage that you may be trained in for a long duration.
Hello and welcome to the Core Podcast. We're your hosts, Aline Keller.
And Shannon Polson.
I'm a precision nutrition certified coach.
And I'm a NASM certified personal trainer for over 13 years. We support women 30 years old and over to pursue health through realistic nutrition and fitness strategies. Our main passion is to help you find that smile when you look in the mirror, find freedom when you eat, and joy when moving your body.
Make sure to subscribe for your weekly dose of doable health tips, practical advice, and so much more. It's the health education you wish you'd had.
So this week we are talking about the stabilization phase in training, and this is continuing our series that Shannon started a couple of weeks ago. So if you didn't listen to the first one, go have a little review of that. And today we're going to jump into what I've heard is the most important phase in training.
In my opinion, and I want to be a firm believer out there that a lot of personal trainers would say the same thing, that phase one stabilization phase is going to be one of your most important phases, and I will go over why. So yeah, like Ailini said, if you didn't listen to the previous podcast episode titled Intro to the Phases of Exercise Training, you're definitely going to want to take some time to listen to that, as it will set up the ground layer of what to expect as we move forward and dig deep into each phase of training. Now, it's important to know that the phases of training are smaller divisions of training progressions that fall within blocks of training. So each stage during the different phases of training has a designed purpose that provides you with a systematic approach for progressing towards your goals. It will address specific needs that you have, and then it'll also keep safety as a top priority. Each phase of training is typically 6 weeks in duration, but can be plus or minus for some clients depending on their abilities and goals. And we'll also touch base on that a little bit too, as far as the duration of your training phases. So the stabilization level consists of one phase of training, and that is your phase one, which is stabilization endurance training. The main focus of this form of training is to increase muscular endurance and total body stability while developing optimal neuromuscular efficiency or coordination. So that was a lot of words right there. Basically, what we're trying to do is focus on creating a very strong and stable body with effective coordination and body awareness. So you have control of your body, you're strong, you have all of the balances going on. This phase to me, like I said, is the most important. And I do have a strong feeling that most personal trainers would agree, especially if you've been training clients for many years. It was mentioned previously that phases are typically 6 weeks in duration, but for some, phase one is a stage that you may be trained in for a long duration, as again, it focuses in on the entire human movement system, and it is meant for you to increase the necessary strength to live an efficient life with less pain. Now, I have had many clients alternate between phase one and two throughout their time with me. They've never progressed further than phase two to move on to phases 3 through 5. And they'd continue to benefit and produce positive results regardless of not moving into phase 3 through 5. So if you are just beginning an exercise routine, meaning you've never exercised before, or you've been out of a consistent routine for 6 or more months, you absolutely 110% without a doubt need to start in phase one. And you might be there for more than 6 weeks, and that is totally okay. This phase is setting you up for success in your body, in your work life, just overall setting you up for complete success. So if I had an elite athlete come to me and they wanted to progress their training game, I would still start them in phase one so I could get to know this person's strength, their weaknesses, and their body mechanics. If they're an elite athlete, they might not need to train in this particular phase for the full 6 weeks, but it is necessary to get to know one's body and how to progress appropriately and safely. So let's move into progressing in this phase a little bit. So while progressing in phase one, the progression level of training is proprioceptively based. This means that difficulty is increased by introducing a greater challenge to the balance and stabilization systems of the body. So a lot of people think, I'm going to increase my challenge level by increasing my weight or my load, which of course you are increasing that challenge level, that intensity, because now you're carrying a heavier weight. But there are other ways to challenge your body. And this phase is mainly focusing in on the balance and the stabilization systems of your body. So for example, if you are able to perform and complete a full push-up properly with proper exercise execution, you could then progress this push-up exercise by performing your push-up on a stability ball. If you're able to perform a controlled 20-pound overhead press, you could progress this exercise by performing this press on a Basu ball. So now notice I didn't add weight to these exercises. I simply put them in less control. So by performing a push-up on a stability ball, by performing an overhead press on a Basu ball, it's going to require additional activation of the nervous system and the stabilizing muscles of the shoulders and the trunk to maintain optimal posture while performing the exercise. Now, let's hypothetically say that you can do an overhead press with 20 pounds. Now, you want to make sure that you are able to perform your exercise properly before you add on this uncontrolled environment. If you're performing an overhead press and you're compensating by pressing your hips forward, you might not have that strong core or that stabilization within your trunk to then progress onto your Basu ball. Now, it's pretty common once you're performing that overhead press on the Basu ball to kind of be bouncing around a little bit. You're feeling unstable. That might actually be a point in time where you decrease your weight until you're able to perform that overhead press controllably on the Basu ball and then move back up to that 20 pounds that you were doing without the Basu ball. So again, with phase one, we're really just working on that stabilization. We're getting everything to be in control and balanced. So really, in a safe manner, you want to create an unbalanced environment. But again, you want to be safe while you do it. One reason I love phase one so much isn't because it'll give you guaranteed results to walk into a room tall and confident, but because it has such a strong focus on proper body alignment and proper exercise form. These two variables are hands down my favorite items to instruct to my clients, whether it's a classroom setting or it's a one-on-one training session. Because without proper body alignment and proper exercise form and execution, you cannot move on into the next phase. And that's one reason why, if I have a client, we're training her one-on-one, her 6 weeks is coming up, but her body weight squat still isn't up to par, or her plank, her hips are still sinking, or that overhead press, her hips are overcompensating, they're pressing forward. I'm probably am going to keep her there for another at least 2 weeks to try and work on that weakness of the muscles and then to stretch out some of those tight muscles around her body as well. So again, you really, really need to focus and hound in on proper body alignment and exercise execution before you can move on. Plus, it's amazing to witness clients progress towards their proper alignment and how much better they feel in daily life. They may have been compensating in an area of their body for years due to an imbalance of weak and tight muscles. It's incredible. I mean, I've said this example before, but when you go to a busy area, whether it's the mall, whatever, and you just observe people and their gait and how they walk, it's just amazing how imbalanced we are as humans. So phase one is just, it's kind of cool. It's like Play-Doh, like we're just kind of molding you to have a more efficient working body. And when you move more efficiently, you experience less pain. It's amazing. All right. Stabilization and neuromuscular efficiency can only be obtained by having the appropriate combination of proper alignment or your posture of your human movement system. Your human movement system, otherwise known as your kinetic chain, gives you the proper stabilization and strength that's necessary to maintain that alignment. So again, if you have that stabilization, you have that neuromuscular efficiency, your kinetic chain, your whole movement system, everything is just working like a fine-tuned machine. It is then where you can maintain that alignment, not only in exercise, but in daily life. So that's kind of the nice thing. Ooh, this is another reason why I love phase one, is because it's creating a strong body to let you move through this universe more efficiently, stronger, more confident, less pain. I don't know about you, but I love all those dynamics and I really like living that way. I do recommend listening to episode 9 in season 1 on the kinetic chain. That's going to be a really good pair to this particular podcast just to get a grasp on proper body alignment and how to get started on it, and to make sure that when you look in the mirror, your body alignment looks like what we have. There's a free resource on that episode as well. Stabilization training provides the needed stimuli to acquire stabilization and neuromuscular efficiency through the use of proprioceptive enriched exercises and progressions. So basically, when you have your stabilization, you have that neuromuscular efficiency. Now your proprioceptives are that much more balanced and you're that much more aware. So proprioceptive, your motor skills, your gait, how you're able to just handle your body and feel where you are in the environment. When you have all of that stimuli working together, you're just enriching your exercise and your progression as a whole. Now, I've said neuromuscular efficiency quite a bit here, and that's simply the ability of the neuromuscular system to enable all muscles to efficiently work together in all planes of motion. So again, it goes back to your body alignment. You have the proper stabilization, you have that efficiency. Everything is working together as it should in and outside of your exercise session. And then the planes of motion, feel free to refer to episode 1 in season 2, where I chat about the planes of motion, the importance of it, and exercise that are completed in each category. Okay, so you also need to go check out kinetic chain, planes of motion, if you haven't already. And I said it previously, and I'll mention it again, but the stabilization phase must be done before progressing into the next phases of training. Research has shown that inefficient stabilization can negatively affect the way force is produced by the muscles. It will increase stress on your joints, it will overload the soft tissues, and eventually it will cause injury. And this leads me to one of Aileen's and I's favorite rants. Programs or challenges that are made for everyone, because in the fitness world, everyone is created equal, right? No, you're not.
But wouldn't it be
Um,
great if every single person could get a six pack in 2 minutes a day, even though the person recording the videos is working out a few hours a day?
I know, it's just blows my mind. It's like, what if you've never exercised before? What if you've never completed phase one of training to ensure your body is strong, enough for this increased demand? And then you sign up for a 6 week body boot camp that requires jumping and heavier uncontrolled lifts and sudden change in directions and so on. Your tendons, your ligaments, your joints, your muscles, your bones, your mind is in complete overload simply because you did not take the time to welcome yourself into phase one. And one thing that I can add into two is you can always go back into phase one. I can't tell you how many times I'd maybe do phase one, two, three. I'm back to phase one. Or I'm kind of just having a bad day and I know I simply need to move my body. I will perform an exercise session that is solely on phase one. So phase one not only addresses the existing structural deficiencies, it may also provide a superior way to alter body composition, such as reduced fat, body fat. Because think of this, all of the exercises that are typically performed in phase one can be in a circuit fashion. And we'll talk more when we get into like the strategies of this phase. But circuit form is basically where you perform a higher number of reps in a particular exercise with shorter rest periods, or you work towards having shorter rest periods. And then by performing exercises in an uncontrolled environment, think of how much muscles you're using just to stabilize yourself. So in doing so, you're probably burning more calories as well. All right, so let's move into the goals and the strategies of the stabilization level of training. So the goals of this phase is to improve your muscular endurance, enhance joint stability, increase flexibility, enhance control of posture, and then improve your balance, stabilization, and your muscular coordination. Now, training strategies. How should you train when you're in this phase? So training strategies would include training in unstable yet controlled environments. So it goes back to performing that push up on the stability ball or that overhead press on a Basu ball. You could have like a balance beam. Yeah, there's so many different ways. And if you need any ideas, please reach out because I'm all about it. And then how do you train in here? So it's low loads and high repetitions. So if I had someone new coming in, let's say we were going to do just one set of everything. Said 4 different exercises, and these 4 exercises you're going to complete with a very low load, maybe like 1 to 4 pound dumbbells in each hand. And then I'm going to have you try and complete 8 repetitions. Hopefully you can complete 8. Then we move to 12, 15, and then 20 repetitions. Once you're able to complete 20 repetitions with that low load, we're going to start to increase our load and decrease our repetitions. And you'll see this throughout the training phases, how it just all comes together. How in one of the phases, you'll do max capacity for 1 to 5 reps. So here we are, low loads, 20 repetitions. Eventually, we're going to just slowly start to mesh all of this together where it all makes sense. But that's where you need to start. That's where your muscular endurance is. You're able to maintain that demand on your body for 20 repetitions while keeping your body in proper alignment. Okay, that's another thing too when I look at my clients. When they start to move their body around, they're shifting, they're compensating, they're imbalanced, they're unable to remain in control. That's when we have to either A, decrease that load or decrease those repetitions. All right, so there we have it. Phase 1, stabilization and endurance training, an absolute must stage of training that everyone, from the beginner to the elite athlete, must visit. This phase will focus on appropriate body alignment and the stabilization strength necessary to maintain alignment It increases the strength in your tendons, ligaments, joints, cartilage, bone mass, muscles, your mind, and other human movement systems, such as your digestive system, even, to create and build a powerful, fine-tuned working machine that is your body. So stay tuned for my next episode, in which I'll cover phase 2, and that will be our strength level. Okay, and then again, a reminder to listen to episode 9 in season 1 on the kinetic chain. That's going to focus on what proper body alignment looks like, so you have a visual of what you need to be working towards. And then planes of motion, which is episode 1 in season 2, because you need to make sure that you are training in all motions, because we live in a 3D world, not just forward, not just your walking motion. So both important dynamics that you need to be educated on as you move through these phases of training and your own training journey.
I love that. And I love how you put that. And I really want to make sure people hear what you're saying, that not everybody has to move through all of the phases to be physically fit, right? Like it depends on your goal. It depends on where you need to get. And going back on a phase, that's not a regression. That's just, you're restarting a cycle, you're restarting a process. It's not like, okay, now I've reached, phase 3 and I'm never looking back, right? Like, it's just, these are cycles. It's not a straight line, right? Like you don't graduate from a phase and never go back.
Right. And it's great as a trainer, and to witness clients go through these phases. And then you could think of phase 1 as a deloading phase. And it's kind of adorable when my clients are mad that they have to go back to phase 1, because they do think that they're regressing. Like, Shannon, I just got to phase 4 or 5. I'm doing Olympic lifts over here, and you want me to go back to phase 1? Absolutely, I do. Because you need to give your mind a break. You need to give your neuromuscular system a break, your nervous system. You need to give everything a break. It's like anything in life. And hey, we're only going to be here for a couple of weeks. Let's make sure that we still have our fine-tuned body that we worked on many months ago. Focus on some more planks, that type of thing. And we'll get back to phase 5. We'll get back to that clean and snatch or the jerk or deadlift or whatever it is that you're working so hard on. So no, you're never regressing. The only time you're regressing is when you quit. So don't quit. Just keep moving. Just do something, right?
And the other thing that you mentioned, we joked about it, but it's also very important because, and I've been around this industry enough that I've tried most of the stuff that's out there. And in these programs where, you just have, like you said, the fitness world, everybody's the same. So you jump into these programs, and a lot of these programs, especially the ones that are designed to be very short so that you work a lot in a short period of time, they're having people do sometimes a lot of compound movements as well. And so you're doing these compound movements that, you have a beginner who's never learned to properly squat and who's never learned to properly do a shoulder press, and you're having everybody do these movements at the same time. And this doesn't always work because you are leading to potential injuries. Because if you don't have the foundation in how to do these movements, you're going to jump into a program and probably get yourself injured. So that was also a good observation, I think, that, people have to pay attention, that you can't just jump into whatever. All right. So that was a great one. And we will be back next week talking about the foundation of health. And I talked about this a little bit in a previous episode, but I really want to give you what I call the solid rocks. And we are going to talk about this next week, and we'll see you there.